This is the Samsung Galaxy S4. This is one of the most anticipated devices of 2013, but Samsung decided to take a different approach to their new flagship this year. Samsung has been dominating the Android space ever since the release of the Samsung Galaxy S2 and 3 and have accumulated millions upon millions of sales all around the world, and their momentum just keeps growing and growing. They decided to take some cues from Apple on this launch though and keep the familiar hardware and differentiate themselves on software. But this makes sense. They're taking the if it ain't broke, then don't fix it approach. But their gamble worked because they shipped 10 million Galaxy S4s in the first 30 days, a company record. This phone helped solidify themselves as the premier Android vendor and ahead of the myriad of other companies that are manufacturing Android devices. So I've been using this device for about a month and a half, enough to definitely know the ins and outs of this device, and it's time for the full review treatment. So what they did was they took their popular Galaxy S3 device and pretty much took that design language and transported it right over to the Galaxy S4. You can see that the home button's still there. They put a little bit of a metal accent on the outside, which is still plastic by the way, and they made it a little bit thinner. But then they put this giant 13 megapixel camera sensor with a lot of software features, and that seems to be the theme of the Galaxy S4. And a lot of people wanted metal on this device, like the HTC One. But there's an advantage of not having metal on the back of this, and it has a removable back cover, which exposes the large 2600 milliamp battery and a SD card slot, a dying breed in the Android industry today. But if you don't like the plastic back, it is a huge global device. You can always just buy a metal back like this on eBay and just replace it. Easy enough. Even though that the hardware looks old, it's new at the same time, and that power placement is awesome on the side. It's very manageable for a 5-inch screen device, and it's very tactile, and your bezels are just so thin, much thinner than the Galaxy S3, and it just feels very, very comfortable in the hand. And it also keeps its familiar button layout, the back, the big home button, and the menu button. So it'll be very familiar to most Android users that have used the Galaxy S3 before, and it makes people feel at home, I think. And this new 5-inch 1080p Super AMOLED HD screen is fantastic. And it's very, very sharp, and it looks very bright, and I love this screen. It's not better than the HTC One for me, but man, is it a pleasure doing everything on this device. And yes, the display is still pentile, but you cannot see it at all. And if somebody tells you they can, unless you're looking at it with a microscope, you really cannot tell. I would not worry about the pentile display on this at all. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's a really good screen. So I think that's enough said. And it's got some extreme viewing angles too, by the way. The other thing that I love about the Galaxy S4 is it comes with Android 4.2.2, which is the most up-to-date Android experience that you can get right now as of the making of this video. So you get a lot of things like the lock screen widgets, and you get some software optimizations, the 2-finger pull down to quick access menus, and this is just great for an OEM to do this because you can't get Android 4.2 right now unless you have a Nexus. So I have to give them lots and lots of props for having 4.2, and it is pretty zippy. So if you're looking for that up-to-date Android experience, then this is going to be the phone for you as the making of this review. Now that being said, a lot of people have complained about the lagginess of the UI on Android 4.2 on this device. And it does run a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 processor clocked in at 1.9 gigahertz, and it should not be lagging at all, because its counterpart, the HTC One, definitely does not lag in my testing for sure. I've run both of these side by side, and I did get an update on AT&T because that's what this device is, and it definitely improved a lot of the lagginess for me. It used to have a lot of redraw issues, but as you can see, it's running pretty quickly. But there you go, you see that? There's some stutters here and there still in the UI, and I really hope that Samsung addresses this issue And I think a lot of these have to do with a lot of the customizations that are on top of TouchWiz, but it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I think people are blowing it up to be. For the most part, it is a very smooth Android experience. So if you're worried about lag in the UI, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Plus, there's going to be some more software updates probably coming from Samsung, so I wouldn't really worry about it. And of course, this being a modern processor, it really just blasts away all the synthetic benchmarks. It does really well on it, so you can watch other videos on that if you want to. And web browsing is also a pleasure. It also comes with the stock Samsung browser, and you can use Chrome as well, but you can see very, very good here. I don't see a lot of problems with it. Sometimes scrolling here can get a little rough, as you can see. Sometimes the responsiveness is kind of crappy, but I think that has a lot to do with also loading times and your network, but it also has to do with a lot of these customizations. It's looking for your eye tracking, it's looking for a lot of that stuff. So I think if you turn a lot of that off, the device just becomes more responsive. Everybody's experience may vary. So usually pinch to zooming and everything is very responsive on this phone. So these are just nitpicking things, but I just wanted to be aware that I think a lot of the software customizations definitely bog this phone down. So if you're having problems, kind of just take those off, and especially S-Voice for your redraw issues. But that's enough about that. So what's cool about the Galaxy S4 is that it does carry over some of the awesome things about the Galaxy Note 2, which also features this multi-view, which I love. And it also features where you can use your finger as the pen. You don't even have to touch the screen and hover over things to get a preview. I mean, this phone has so many features, it's almost mind-blowing. You almost have to ask yourself, what doesn't this phone do? I mean, it has a IR blaster on top of the phone, so you can use it to control your TV. So you can hook it up to your set-top box and your DVR and pretty much just use this as a universal remote. Awesome. You don't even have to touch your screen if you want to shuffle through photos. You can just wave your hand right over the sensors and it goes right through them. Good if you have muddy hands or dirty hands. And the exact same thing for web browsing. If you want to just move up and down, you just use your hands right over the sensor. That's really awesome. And it also has eye tracking technology to where it knows if you're looking at the screen or not. Tilt the screen up and down. Wow, it's just so many features. It's unbelievable. It even knows if you're watching the video and when you look away. Isn't that crazy? And it'll just stop the video. Watch this. You can even answer the phone with just a swipe gesture. And the Galaxy S4 even helps you with your health stuff. So it can tell you what your weight is and what your fluctuation in weight is. And it even has a hygrometer and barometer in there. So it'll tell you your temperature and humidity. It's even got a pedometer built in, so it'll take your steps. So it just does so many things. Like the splash screen says when you first get it, it's meant to be your life companion. And are these things really that useful? I don't know. I mean, I found myself not using them that much. A lot of times I just ended up turning them off. When I first got it though, I was just using them like crazy just to kind of figure it out. It's kind of cool. But I found myself just using this phone for regular things. Web browsing, listening to music, things like that. But you have to just think about it. I don't know if you're going to use them that much, but they're cool to have anyway. So let's talk about one of the big stars of this phone, and that is the 13 megapixel camera that is on the back. And the international versions use a Sony Exmor RS sensor on the back, but the Snapdragon 601 doesn't. But this new 13 megapixel camera has many, many new features, and it's crazy how many features that there are. And you can see there's beauty phase, best photo, drama, sound and shot, HDR, sports, night eraser. Just a ton, and you can do a separate video on that. And if you really want to see a separate video on that, make sure you check out my YouTube channel for sample shots and different video. But here you can use the front-facing camera, which is awesome, that you can go ahead and record the dual shot. Love that, front and back camera at the same time. Awesome for bloggers, and you can just change the front-facing camera portion of it, move it around, do what you want. And here is an example of the drama shot as you can see, of me moving and jumping. It's a little bit hard to use sometimes if you're not exactly the same distance or the distance that you wanted away from the camera, but it works fairly well. And it also takes animated GIFs as well. It's called Animated Photo, and it does a pretty good job. You can see that the trees are moving in the background when I am still, and this is pretty much how you do it, where when you take it, you can just blur it out with the purple parts and decide which ones stay still and which ones they don't. And it works pretty well, but they're pretty much just animated GIFs. But hey, people love animated GIFs, and this is an example of a sound and shot.
This is the new Lumia 521 on T-Mobile that is $150.
It basically lets you add sound to still shots, but all the gimmicks aside, the 13 megapixel shooter is an amazing one. Sharp photos, good color replication. It is one of the best cameras on the mobile market today, and it even takes good low light photos as well. Not as good as the HTC One or the Nokia Lumia 920, but it definitely holds its own. For more details, please check out my camera sample video linked below. So let's just jump right into the call quality, and I am using this on the AT&T network, so it will vary on your respective network that you get the phone for. But I thought that the call quality was great for the AT&T model. I had no drop calls at all. I had really good strength, and the 4G LTE connectivity was great. Really fast data speeds too. I didn't think it was the clearest speaker piece I've ever heard, but it was loud, and I think it would definitely pass. And I think that you won't have any problems. It has a lot of features in the call quality too. So if you're worried about the call quality, don't be. It's a good phone. So let's jump into the gaming performance of the Samsung Galaxy S4, and this has the Adreno 320 GPU in here, and it performs very well. And with the higher clock speed of the Galaxy S4 compared to the rest of the Android counterparts out there, it does help, and I think it also contributes to some smoother frame rates here. And this is Iron Man 3, and it plays really good on here without any problems. So any modern game out there, this GPU will play it. You won't have any problems with it. Smooth frame rates, good gaming performance all around. And if you're afraid of the gaming performance versus the Exynos version that's out there, the octa-core version, yeah, that one might perform a little bit better from what I've seen, but I wouldn't worry about it at all. It'll play any modern game that's out there. As almost any other Samsung phone I've ever had, the GPS performance is great. I've no problems at all with the GPS lock. It locks really fast. I love using this thing for navigation, accurate, and the big screen, lovely. So let's jump into a lot of things that people are concerned about, and that is the battery life. It has a 2600 milliamp battery, and I think this battery performs good. And for normal people on normal day use, I think you'll be able to get through a full day without problems. The screen is what sucks up all the battery on this phone, and you know that from any large screen 1080p device. The screen's gonna suck up the battery. So I found myself just putting on auto or just adjusting the brightness a little bit to kick me out through the day. I was able to get through at least 10 hours of my day on moderate to heavy use. So if that's an indication at all, I found this to be a little bit better than the HTC One. I was able to get about an hour or an hour and a half better than the HTC One. But you don't really have to worry about battery here because you can just carry an extra battery on you. And you just replace it, put on the back, and you're on your way. So battery life, not really an issue here at all. So the Galaxy S4 overall is an amazing phone. And I think that if you're going to sign a 2-year contract, then the S4 will be a great choice for you. And I give it a thumbs up all the way because you know that Samsung has a pretty decent track of updating their devices, and I think for a 2-year contract you'll probably get another update on Android. So whenever Key Lime Pie decides to come out, then you know that the S4 will probably get it, since the S3 is getting a lot of features that the S4 already has. But if you're looking for a metal build in a phone, then you're not going to want to go for this device. Go for the One or another device. But if you're looking for the most universal Android experience with a lot of developer support, lots of heavy software customizations that has a lot of cool and wow factors. You want to show your phone off, you want to have the most brand new phone out there that does a whole bunch of things, then I would definitely get this phone. It has a really good 1080p display, the best AMOLED screen that they've ever put out. Very good touch sensitivity on the screen. It's got an amazing 13 megapixel camera on it. And it has a familiar layout to it. Android 4.2.2 also right out of the box. So I think this is a really good phone for you to get out, and especially if you want to sign a 2-year contract, I think that this one will be the phone for you. So what do you guys think? The Galaxy S4? If you want to watch any more videos on these phones and comparisons of the S4, please subscribe to my channel today. Do not miss another video. Follow me on Twitter at SuperScientific. So hit the like button like crazy, and thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next video.